Let's go on a tour and make some connections. Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. As you just see the Class 800 just running past there, and in a few seconds there it is, you'll see a Rail Adventure HST with a couple of cargo wagons behind. Anyway, I thought I'd just give you a quick overall view of the layout because there's a lot more people subscribed since the last one. So thank you so much if you're one of those people. I really appreciate it. Now, this is part of the layout you perhaps haven't seen so much, if at all. Now, this obviously is Manchester Piccadilly, and it's where the layout gets its name from, Piccadilly, and it is probably the centrepiece of the layout itself. Now, just to give you a bit of background, I started in 2019 building this, and obviously the platforms went in first, followed by the canopies. Now, those canopies originally were made of card, and within 6 to 8 months, they'd all warped and started looking really, really poor and needed replacing. Then it was at that time I decided to buy a 3D printer, and I thought I'll give it a go. And it's still absolutely fine so many years later. So just to give you a quick view over the top, so you can see there all the different effects and the corrugations and the glazing, all the steps going up the side, all of that was 3D printed. And the window cleaning equipment, there's a little man just there. This area here is the station concourse, a bit difficult to see, but you can just about make out there's a cafe just down there. If I was to take you across a bit further, there is an escalator going down. You probably can't make that out, but there is an escalator going down to the lower levels and out to the street level. And that comes out into the car park. It is all a bit dusty at the moment. And although this is not quite scale length by probably about a foot, I've tried hard to get the width of it as close as I can. And incidentally, I've been making some 3D printed vehicles. There's 3 there. There's that van, that one, and the silver van just here. I am making a load of cars as well, but that's taking a little while. So all these buildings here, all these are initially made of card. And that's a scale scenes kit, I believe, or scale model scenery, one of the two, I can't remember. And that roof comes off to see all of that in there. So you can see it's just basic card. This is things with that. It's the way I did things in those days. That there is a skip, believe it or not. And then you've got Sheffield Street coming down here, and a representation of a car park. I probably will in time do that again. And some trompe-l'oeil there to give the impression that bridge, that tunnel goes right through and comes out the other side. Down Sheffield Street, you've got all these industrial units. And then you've got the tram. That is a 3D printed static model. It's not, there's no motor in it, it's literally just a solid lump of plastic. And then this section down here, all the sort of undergubbins of the station, if you like, and the route into the car park or staff car park goes in. That would actually be an open entrance, I believe, where the barriers are. And then more car parking spaces going down there. If I can give you a view of the inside of the station, if that's possible. And a view from the inside. It is a bit difficult to film inside here. The big white line going across the middle is the footbridge, if you're familiar with that. And I made a visit with the very kind permission of Network Rail, and they let me just take hundreds of photographs. And so I tried to sort of replicate the station as best I possibly can. And at the time, I've tried to sort of replicate everything as much as I can. I'll just show you the waiting room over in 13 and 14. So obviously that's 13 and 14 over there. And the footbridge. And if I remove that section there, although it's changed, I believe again, since I did that. So I think it's all changed on the western front. I did see a video, but that's pretty much it. Most of the station is 3D printed. As you can see, there's a little vehicle down there. And so on, and so on, and so on. And I've tried to replicate as many of the overhead gantries as possible. They will be converted into this socket system that I'm creating, where you have a socket mounted into the ground and then these gantries just sort of slot into those. So they'll be done eventually. But there we go. That's Manchester Piccadilly. So let's have a look at Dinting. There we go. This is Dinting. So you can see there's used to be double track through both platforms, but there's the old ruined building. And I've tried to replicate all the calamity that's taking place inside there. That was great fun to build, I have to be honest, and all the damaged roofs, all that sort of stuff, and the fire that took place there. It was brilliant to model it. Disastrous for it to happen, but, and of course lots of history, because behind this area was a whole railway heritage centre, and obviously all that's gone now, but you can see from that's the main part of the station just there. And this part here, I believe now is flats, I believe. Just all through there. And some bikes just there, if you can see them there. And then this part of the station, I believe, was sold off and has actually been bought by somebody as a house. But obviously you can see that all the track has now been removed, well, most of it has, and it's all overgrown. This was a scene, this area here, of a horrible tragedy where a freight train derailed, and I think it hit this platform quite badly and damaged it, and they decided at the time to make both tracks single track, which would mean that they didn't have to worry about that platform anymore, because both trains would just run one this way and come back, one that way and come back. Okay, and then coming across here, we got down to New Mill Central. So for those of you who are familiar with New Mill Central, there's the station building just there. It is quite difficult to get into that, but it's there, I promise. And as you go further down, as we come further down, comes across into that part, and the signal box is just there. Hopefully you can make that out. And then this road would continue up into the town centre, and then obviously the track then continues into those twin tunnels. As I said before, this area here, including the mill, has got some significant work to be done on it. And yeah, well, I'll explain that in the next video. Not forgetting Dinting Viaduct and the stream going in underneath. And as a little sneaky peek into what's coming in the next video, you will see these have been glued back up again now. I decided to glue them because it is quite difficult to work out how to slot them in, if you like, or create sockets for them, because each one of them, I mean, these three here are very similar, but those two over there, it gets a little bit more complicated attaching it to the bridges. So anyway, let's move on. And then moving on to this, well, quite countryside type scene with the carriage shed. That's by no means finished, and that will be done. There's a major overhaul coming on that, probably not, it may be next year, maybe the year after, so I don't know. But there's that. I'm just following the tracks round. Now coming to these 3 bridges, which will feature again in the next video. So there's obviously the viaduct, girder bridge, and I'm not sure what that bridge is called. Bowstring, is it? I'm not sure. But into the countryside scene, as you saw in the last video, that then continues around and goes down the side of Dinting into the main line down there. Now, just coming back onto the other side of those viaducts again, this is an area I haven't officially showed you as such. You might have seen clips of it, but this was obviously the area that I was referring to after doing Hadfield, which I'll give you another glimpse of in a minute. But the point of this section is I just wanted to keep it simple. And so therefore, yes, okay, there is a mound there and a mound there, but that was almost like I was trying to create a hill coming down and a minor cutting of that branch line going through there. But this, I wanted to keep it fairly flat, so it's literally just scatters, a little bit of foliage, clump foliage, that type of thing, the odd tree down here, all that sort of stuff. It's really simple. And Andy, sorry mate, I did say I was going to put the mound in, but it just proved to be a little bit too close to the tracks. I'd end up with a bit of an edge there, and I thought it was more simple just to put a couple of containers next to each other. That still lifts off, as you can see. There's the clip underneath, and the way I'm looking at it is that nobody can get to them. So they were there long before this track was there, and it was part of the depot, and the stuff has been emptied out. They've just been left there, and that's how I'm looking at it. You've got to think of it in some way or another, haven't you? And then obviously Hadfield just up through there. Okay. So next bit is moving on to making connections. Making connections indeed. So what do I mean? I mean reconnecting the branch line, all of it, so that trains can come from New Mills, Hadfield and Dinting and go all the way round and then back down the slope again, back down towards the main line. Now, obviously, I've built these bridges and they will remain as lift out sections. I don't want them to be permanent. So the viaduct will be one lift out section. The girder bridge will be another one. And that piece there, that pillar and that will be glued together, so both of those pieces come out as one. Getting this track sorted out at the moment. That point has had it, so I'm going to go and get a new one. And I think considering this section it's going to be sort of itty bitty bits, I think that's a wise move instead of trying to use what could be a third hand point. I don't remember. Right, I've got my point, and that is a code 80 electrofrog point. I was hoping to get a unifrog. I've not used one of those before, but I've got a feeling Pico don't make them in code 80 N gauge at the moment, so that'll be something to look forward to in the future. Right, and so on to Glossop. Now, you may or may not realise I've actually reconfigured this. Obviously I needed to reattach this line back to this point. As you realise, I had to move that track back there. It was there, if you notice. You can see the outline of the sleepers in the glue, and it came round here. Again, you might be able to pick that out, and then come back in and joined up around about here somewhere. So I've reconfigured that, and what you might say, well, why have you done that? Well, because I wanted a bigger gap between the platform of Glossop and I'll say the main line, but the branch line going around the outside. So I can actually put some trees into this gap. So that's the main reason. Got all that done. I've put all the board back in and now realise it doesn't work. So what I've done, I've tracked it back to a fish plate down here, that one. And how do I know that? If I take my screwdriver and put it into that gap, notice that then lights up and notice the carriage lights light up as well. Right, just on further investigation, I've got some droppers just there which go down through there. That then connects up to that, so follow the white wire back, which then turns out into these two here. Now there are more droppers the other side of that join, which is just there. Now this is all still part of the reversing loop, so if I take a wire from there and connect it to there, in theory, we'll see in a bit. Very grateful that worked. I didn't want to solder across the fish plate because that can cause problems in the future, particularly with expansion and contraction. The problem's never really going to go away, and obviously dirt as well. So obviously all of this section is now working, and I've tested it with a track tester. And if you haven't got one of those, I strongly suggest you get one. You can get them from Amazon, places like that, and model shops. And that one will do 00 and N gauge as well, so it's pretty good. Starting to make progress. I got the train to run all the way around up to there, and I couldn't get it to come down here. So I ended up putting in another dropper on the bridge. It will need disguising. I know that looks awful, but that was the way of doing it. Remember, that bridge has to come out, so therefore the wiring had to be connected to the bridge, and therefore when I lift the bridge out, I just unscrew a couple of wires and it's free. So that's not a problem. Got that working. But then when I tested the train all down through here, got to this point, it stalled. Dirty point. So I got the isopropyl alcohol out, started scrubbing the point with the toothbrush, etc, etc, etc. Backed it up over these 2 points again, and short circuit. And that is telling me that the reversing module is having a few issues. But it did mean I had to stop, rethink the wiring, and then take part of it out and rebuild it elsewhere. And that took me a good 2 to 3 hours to do that. And finally, I've got it running. I hope. So I've got my test train over there. Right, so you might just be able to make out I've got the 37 over there. Now that's going to come up through Dinting, over the bridges, connect up to this test train just down here. I'm going to take it back down to where that is now, and then come back up by switching this point, and then back all the way around and stop in Dinting. Okay, I won't be able to go straight through because it means I have to switch the point, and I do those manually for most of the layout. So here we go then. Hopefully this should be all right. Has been working quite well, the reversing module. As long as I've switched the point, it'll work. So coming up through Dinting now, and out towards the viaducts. I'm just going to slow it down a little bit. And I just want to make sure that it doesn't end in disaster. And stop. Right, I just wanted to make sure everything was all coupled up nice and securely. So here we go again with the whole train this time. I've had to do some work on this carriage here because it's a newer carriage, and the rest of the train is the older style, and the couplings are not so compatible. So I've had to do some major work with couplings and the bogies and all sorts. Hopefully it'll be all right. I'm just going to go fairly slowly with it. But I do like that run over the bridge there. That does look quite nice, I have to be honest. Out through Dinting. And up to the Dinting Viaduct. Oh, we seem to have split. Right, hopefully you can see the train. It's right in the middle of the screen. There was a few issues with that run out there. The train did split apart, the couplings. It's the older style couplings with the little spring in there, and sometimes they don't sit properly. I think that was the reason, but I don't know. But and there was also the coach that I referred to, which is that third vehicle along behind the gauging module unit. That popped a wheel. So I'm keeping it fairly slow. And I do have to stop this train before the point onto Dinting Viaduct because of the polarity of the track. So coming round, it all seems to be fairly good at the moment. I'd say the only issues have been with this particular train, and even then they're not serious, as you can see. Running really nicely. Just coming into Dinting. Incidentally, this bridge going across Piccadilly Throat there is going to be a large gantry style, and I should just beef it up. It's currently housing signals. I can go a tiny bit further and probably stop about there. There we go. I think that run has been successful. The reversing module has done what I wanted it to do. I've got the track sufficiently clean, so it actually works, and that was a big effort in its own right, as I'm sure you can appreciate. So I am really pleased that finally I've got the track running, and we can start to see some trains coming up and down this area now and in and out of Hadfield. Somebody did ask about the 323. There are one or two issues with it. It's not perfect. It works, it runs, but I need to sort out one or two things before I can sensibly put it back on the track. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I will leave it there, and I will see you again very soon here on Piccadilly. You take care of yourself. Bye for now.